All right. Thank you for attending the Fernley Planning Commission meeting this March 11th, 2026. Hearing devices are available. Please see the city clerk. To avoid meeting disruptions, please place your cell phones in silent mode or turn them off during the meeting. All meetings are recorded. When addressing the Planning Commission, please sign in and state your name and speak clearly into the microphone. Thank you for your understanding. Item 1, Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Flores, can you lead us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item 1.2, roll call. Commissioner Vanderheiden.
Present.
Chairwoman Garvin, I'm here. Commissioner Wagner.
Present.
Commissioner Lewis.
Present.
Commissioner Williams. Absent. Commissioner Flores.
Present.
Vice Chair McCullough.
Present.
Commissioner Holt.
Present.
And we have a quorum. Item 1.3, public forum. This portion of the meeting is devoted to the public. The public may comment on any matter that is not specifically included on the agenda as an action item. Items not included on this agenda cannot be acted upon other than to place them on a future agenda. If you wish to comment, you can do so in person at the meeting or use the raise your hand feature in Zoom, *9 if you're participating via phone. Public comments are limited to 30 minutes. Please avoid repetition. The chair may, at her discretion, hold comments until the second public forum at the end of the meeting. Public comments submitted prior to 4 p.m. the day of the meeting will be provided to the Planning Commission and added to the record, but will not be read during the live meeting. Any public input received after 4 p.m. the day of the meeting will be included in the record, but may not reach the commission members before action is taken. Is there any public input at this time? If you are speaking at the podium, please print your name on the sheet provided.
Is this on? There we go. Good afternoon, Planning Commission. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Anne Marie Lane, and I am the Vice President of the Nevada APA, that's the American Planning Association chapter. And I am here on the chapter's executive board's behalf to tell you about a new format that we have for Nevada-only chapter membership. So chapter member, statewide membership only is $40. In the past, you've had to send in a check. We now have an online portal where you can register online and you can choose whether or not you want that membership to be renewed annually or not. So that was my first point to tell you. The second thing was why would you want to be involved in this organization? So essentially, this is our professional organization for planners. One, it gives you access to statewide planning expertise, and essentially membership connects planners and commissioners with professionals across Nevada who are actively solving similar challenges like growth management, infrastructure planning, housing supply and transportation planning, access to training and education, professional credibility. Participation demonstrates Fernley's commitment to high quality planning and transparent governance. Early awareness of legislative and policy changes. The chapter tracks these policies, and being involved in the membership allows you to have a view of them before they actually impact projects that you'll be voting on. And lastly, the opportunity to share Fernley's vision. So being a member gives you a platform to share your planning successes and to help shape statewide planning conversations. Again, that statewide membership is only $40 a year. And my pitch to you is that our commissioners are really our boots on the ground. I like to think of planning commissioners, you're where vision meets decision. And we want to hear what's going on in our state, and we want to hear your voices. So please consider becoming a member. I've left my card with the deputy city clerk. If you guys have any follow-up questions, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. All right, is there any other public comment? And do we have anybody on Zoom? Okay. Moving on to item 1.4, approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion?
I'll move to approve tonight's agenda as presented.
Thank you. And do I have a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Wagner and a second from Commissioner Flores. Can we please vote? And that passes 7-0. Item 1.5, approval of last meeting's minutes. Can I have a motion?
Could I make a comment about that before we vote?
Sure.
I don't know what's standard or not in what the minutes held, but I feel like item 2.2 last month was so filled with hesitancy and voting with some feeling obligated that while it did pass, there's nothing in there that notes that there was concern about it in any way. And I would really hope that that might be reflected because of how many comments were made. I think for them to be part of the public comments by the council members, by the commissioners, but none of that is included in the way that it reads. And that's just my thoughts on it, that maybe it should.
I think, Cody, when you made that motion, didn't you say under duress or something like that? Is that? I don't think that was the quite wording, but something like that.
I believe I said with hesitancy or something along those lines, but I completely agree with Commissioner Juliana's comments there.
Yeah, as do I. Does it not reflect that?
It may have like a word in there with his comment. I can double check it right now, but I was just hoping that with as many people as had voiced that there would be some sort of outlining of it. And I don't know if that's something to amend or just maybe to be aware of. I don't know.
Aaron Morton, City Attorney, what you can do is just direct the clerk to enter that into the minutes for this meeting.
That
We can
sounds
just-
great.
We can just reflect the planning commission's hesitancy in the minutes of the meeting.
Thank you.
All right, I'd like to move to approve the minutes from last meeting with the suggestion that 2.2 is edited to reflect the hesitancy of the planning commission during discussion and the motion.
Thank you.
I have a question, since I was. How would I vote for the minutes of last week? Abstain?
Aaron Morton, City Attorney, you can abstain as to that item and vote on the rest. You can split into two, or you can just abstain from the whole item.
I would probably abstain. Thank you.
Okay. So can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Commissioner Wagner to approve the minutes with the amendment of the minutes to, or of the discussion on item 2.2 from last meeting to be added to this meeting minutes. And a second from Vice Chair McCullough. Can we please vote?
Just on a note, I will also be abstaining as I was also absent.
Okay, and that passes with 4 and 3 abstaining. Moving on to agenda item 2.1, discussion and possible action to formally establish a steering committee for the city of Fernley Comprehensive Master Plan update and for the Planning Commission to appoint members for steering committee membership.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. As you know, we've started the process for updating our master plan. One of the very first steps that we have been asked by the consultant is to create a steering committee, which would be a, kind of a advisory board, so to speak. So we were asking in your agenda tonight that you come prepared to appoint at least one person each, so that we could get that committee started. Each planning commissioner would appoint one person to the steering committee.
That wasn't precisely clear to me. I think we're gonna have to move this forward because if we really have to do that, I know some people who would be, but you'd have to be asked if they're willing to serve, right? So.
Well, under the agenda item brief, staff is requesting that the planning commission appoint members to the steering committee as part of this agenda item.
Okay. I must have missed that on the word. Is everybody ready to appoint somebody? Because I'm not, so.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So are we allowed to, obviously, we make pretty good candidates up here, I think, but open meeting law would limit us to 2 candidates on that committee. Would that be right?
I thought it was none, actually.
Well, there's been some places actually have their planning commission be the steering committee, but our legal counsel determined that was not the best idea, since you're also the ones that will ultimately approve the master plan. So we are asking that we create a separate subcommittee.
Okay, so no planning commission members.
Correct.
I guess I was a little bit, I came prepared to nominate people up here.
Okay. Well, we can always, if you'd like, continue it to the next meeting. The consultant is ready to put a steering committee meeting together as soon as next week, but we can put that off for another month if we need to.
Yeah, because I really thought it was to appoint or recommend somebody on this commission to be.
I believe I put in the staff report that we couldn't use the planning commission.
Probably.
Yes, following consultation with legal counsel, staff recommends that the planning commission retain its formal statutory role under Nevada law and not serve concurrently as the steering committee. Instead, staff recommends that the planning commission formally establish a separate steering committee and approve its membership. Sorry.
Failing.
Well, given the amount of time and everything, because these come out, Thursday before the meeting, it would probably serve us better to, even if we had somebody outside of this commission, to kind of make sure that it would be suitable for the people that we think would be good to be on this steering commission. So.
And you also have a list of people who
It's
have to
in-
fill a certain role.
It's in the staff
community.
report.
Yeah, and we have to make sure we don't double cross, that we get one person of each category, that we each nominate one person of the category. So we have to coordinate who we nominate, basically. So
You don't
that-
necessarily need to worry about that. Anybody that, if there's a empty spot, then we can come back and request that it be filled with somebody else. Mostly, we just want one from each of you, and then staff will take care of a few extras.
Okay. All right, that makes more sense, I suppose. Yeah, I wanted to just clarify something. Since we've already done the Southwest Plan, the South Plan, and this comes to master plan, is it a higher scope planning? As opposed to just a specific areas? Is that what the
The
difference is?
master plan will encompass the entire city and we will put the area plans into the master plan.
Okay,
So it will cover everything.
yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioner Holtz?
Could I possibly get an overview? And I'm apologizing if I missed it. How long does this committee run? How many hours are we asking somebody to commit to? When would they meet? Because to appoint somebody without that understanding of what they're committing to, I feel like it could be setting them up for failure.
I thought I put that in here, but let me double check. Apparently I did not. It is maybe 3 or 4 meetings throughout the process. So it's not a huge amount of time, but it will depend on, as we go through, how many times we need to run new stuff by the committee.
And are these generally held during working business hours? Would they be held in the evenings?
We have not determined that. Was part of putting the steering committee together tonight, was to determine that.
Okay, thank you.
Well, but that would determine who we would recommend, because if it's gonna be during daytime hours, can't recommend somebody who has an 8 to 5 job in Reno.
Correct. Which is why we were going to work together on that tonight. We're going to create the rules and the policies and the stuff.
Well, why don't we create the rules and policies, and then when we have the framework, then we can come up with some names to appoint.
The consultant wanted us to get the members first. That's all I was instructed. So I can go back to him. I can go back to them and report that we want to do it the other way around. That's fine.
I just don't know how we appoint someone when we don't know the parameters of.
Okay. Yeah, I totally understand. So it sounds like we want to continue this out to the next meeting.
And Aaron Morton, City Attorney, that will require a motion. So if somebody wants a motion to continue it.
Okay. I'd be willing to make a motion, but my suggestion
I have abstained because I've lost audio and there's no more sound coming through, so I'm not sure what was said.
I'm filling in for somebody on this one, so bear with me while I'm doing this. All right, so background for the new adjacency code. The current adjacency standards are very unclear. They're very hard to understand. They're vague. They're not broken up very easily, so you can't determine what applies to what. And because staff is a little frustrated and tired of arguing about it every time we have a meeting, we decided to go back and redo it. So everybody knows what's required. So we have decided to, we checked with surrounding agencies like we always do for every code amendment. We checked with other surrounding cities and talked with our legal staff. And in this case, we decided to almost entirely rewrite the section. Just throw it out and start over. So here's a sample of what we did. We reorganized each subsection to make things as clear as possible. We added a purpose paragraph to each section and an applicability paragraph so that it's very clear which section applies to what situation. So whether a large lot subdivision is going next to a existing smaller lot subdivision or vice versa, or if commercial is going next to residential's, we've got all these different scenarios. So each one has a very clear section that gets followed. We added definitions for each subsection as necessary. A lot of defining of what different property lines or adjacent lots or just simple things that needed definitions that weren't in there. We updated some standards and then we gave alternatives to those standards. So in each section, you'll find it what's called a default standard, which is something we would expect. And then there's also an alternative. So to go through, kind of give you a little more detail, we've got the new rural adjacency standards, which are for lots, subdivisions going in next to those bigger rural residential lots. So the default in this case is that transitional lots of at least a half an acre along the common boundary lines, not necessarily the whole perimeter, but if just those areas where it's butting up to those larger lots. The alternative would be the adequate buffering, which we changed, and I will go over that in more detail in a later slide. Then we have the subdivision adjacency standards, which are for the typical housing subdivision that we're getting these days. So that would apply to any new subdivision abutting an existing subdivision. So default in that would be that the rear yard setback has to match, rear yard lots have to match on their boundaries. So everybody has the same width of a backyard. Height matching, there's regulations on how high the building can be. So if the building adjacent to you is a single story, you can only be a single story. There's also a 50% lot size matching for boundary lots. So if you have an acre next to you, you can't be any less than a half acre because it has to be 50% of the lot size. And then again, the alternate for that is adequate buffering. So the buffering is 30 feet. We widen that from 20 feet. Buffering shall be continuous and at least 30 feet wide along the entire subdivision perimeter. And again, that's just where it meets adjacent, where it's abutting other residential. The buffer must include 2 improvements from the menu that we've created. So it has to include 2 of either a trail or a path corridor, drainage way or drainage facility, irrigated landscaping, berms or grade separations, common open space amenity, or decorative wall and fence. And it is required that these areas be part of either an HOA or a maintenance district. So the community, the neighborhood residents have to maintain it. We also went in and played a little with the multifamily and commercial adjacency standards. Basically what we did there is that if you're a commercial, multifamily or a commercial going in next to a residential subdivision. So this wouldn't apply if it was commercial going in next to commercial. It would just be commercial going into to existing residential. The upper level step back of 10 feet for all portions of the buildings above 24 feet. So that second story in either your multifamily or your commercial building would have to be set back 10 feet farther in than the first story. Gives a little more room, takes away some of the visibility problems that you have with a two-story building right there. Also require articulation and human scale elements, which are defined in the new code. It's just architectural differences, make it pretty. Required along the facades facing the residential zoning districts. And then the only couple of changes we made to the industrial section was to add that purpose statement, and then the rest stayed the same. Everything else stayed the same on that one, because you don't want industrial next to residential. So that's why the zoning is put together the way it is. All right, so all the technical stuff with our development code here. As you know, there are 2 findings consistent with the master plan and that public notice be given. The staff is able to find that this change is consistent with the master plan for several different reasons. Ensure existing and future land uses are compatible. Ensure the future growth is sensitive to the existing, excuse me, agricultural or farming uses, and then to promote infill. Public notice was published in the Reno Gazette Journal on February 25th. Public hearing is being held tonight. And then additional public notice and public hearings will be done in April for City Council. Sorry. So we have provided approval language for the zone change. We also have some denial, or if you want to make modifications, we've provided those languages as well. So that is my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Cody?
You knew I was going to be first. I think this is actually really well done. As I went through it, like every question I thought I was going to have was kind of answered through that. As I recall, the last one, there was kind of a list of 4 options the developer kind of had, and it was a little bit vague.
Mhm.
And this seems to define that a lot better. The only question I have is, I believe there was a development that was approved at the last city council meeting that kind of a lot of this stuff, the questions originated with, and it was passed, and it looks like it's clearly not compatible with this language.
Mhm.
Because it's already passed, is it kind of grandfathered in, or will they have to revisit this and?
Yeah,
redo it?
this new code, once it gets through City Council approval, will only apply to new
New stuff.
applications.
Okay, thank you.
So I don't have a question. I actually have a comment, and I actually find this insulting because the subdivision that Cody's talking about is in my backyard. I live on 5 acres, and you guys brought forward a 6,000 square foot lot right behind my 5 acres and said, oh, it meets all the codes, it meets the master plan, it meets everything. And we talked about adjacency standards. Oh, it meets the adjacency standards, everything's fine. And Tessa brought up a thing about, no, it doesn't meet the adjacency standards. And then we, as a body, as a planning commission body, we deny it. It goes to the city council. The city council isn't even informed that us as the recommending body denied it. Several more people get up in front of the city council and say it doesn't fit. It's going right next to 5,000 or to 5 acre lots. These 6,000 square foot lots don't fit. And now you come to us saying that the adjacency standards don't fit? Now you want to put half-acre lots right next to 5-acre? That's insulting.
I understand. It's a matter of timing. The city council, just for the record, the city council was told in their staff report that you recommended denial. And as a planner, that's my job, is to take things forward and move things to different bodies as they come up.
It's insulting.
I
Commissioner
also have a
Lewis.
comment in regards to this. I think this is done right, which it should have been done before we proposed all these subdivisions down Farm District, because I also have the same situation as Jenny. I have huge, I have 2 acres and we're all 2 acres on our street. And now we're going to have a subdivision put right behind us.
And those 2 subdivisions are why we started this, why this came up as a code amendment.
Okay, my next question is in regards to the city council meeting. I was on Zoom via that meeting. When it was presented by somebody that works for the developer, that didn't get presented by you.
It was
nor
presented by our associate planner.
associate planner. Well, during her reading of that, it clearly stated on the screen that the planning commission had denied this project.
Mhm.
That was not read into the record.
It was written in the staff report, and
Why can't there be more? I mean, why are we here then?
Sorry, let me just interject. Can we table this conversation, until the latter part of the meeting, or we can have a discussion, because I do have a proposal for an upcoming meeting to
Okay,
have more
perfect.
discussion on this.
That would be great.
So as far as the update to the master plan. Yes,
adjacency.
and yeah, adjacency development standards. May I have a motion?
It is a public hearing, so we
Oh,
need-
I'm sorry,
we do need
yes.
to make sure nobody wants to say
Right.
anything.
Is there any public input at this time?
I actually had a question about it though, but are we tabling all of our conversation on it?
Oh, just if there's questions or comments regarding the actual changes to the adjacency standards,
I do have a question.
go for it.
Could we go over and clarify a little bit of like the buffer zone improvements and then the requirement for them either being managed by an HOA or a special assessment district? I'm not quite sure I understand how many future neighborhoods are going to be affected and required to have a homeowners association or a land limited maintenance association or something with this change. Could I get
I
like an
think
idea of how that works?
I think she said that it would likely be something that would be maintained by a homeowners association, but it's not something, what it's not is something that's maintained by the city.
Michelle Rambo, planning director for the record, every subdivision that has a detention basin, for instance, has a landscape maintenance district attached to it. It's required.
Okay,
We do not require HOAs for everything. So you can have an HOA and a landscape maintenance, you can have just one or the other, but there has to be something in there that provides for maintenance of those common open spaces.
and how many of the neighborhoods moving forward are we expected to require these common open spaces with this new change? Is it one of the options they can do, or is it going to be 100% of all these communities have to have it? Which means every new neighborhood would then need fees and,
No, this is the optional adequate buffering. This is not the default
Okay.
requirement. This would be an option.
perfect. Thank you. That's what I need.
Okay. Is there anybody on Zoom? Okay.
Hi, I'm sorry if I don't understand, but with the subdivisions, if they haven't started the construction, is there a way to require this change that is trying to be updated now?
Michelle Rambo, Planning Director for the record. The change will go in once the code, if the code goes into effect, it applies to all future applications, not applications that are already in the system.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else on Zoom? All right. Any more questions or comments? Okay. And with that being said, can we have a motion?
Considering the information provided by staff presentations and in the staff report, I move to recommend the approval of Bill 377 associated with CA 25012, amending the adjacency development standards contained in Title 32, Chapter 9, Section 30.
Thank you, Commissioner Vanderheiden. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Wagner. And can we please vote? And that motion passes 7-0. Sorry. I'd like to call a 5-minute recess if we can.
While we are on recess, could I ask that the slides that are shown be done like screen sharing? Because I don't see them on Zoom and I think it would be beneficial.
For possible action, consideration and possible action on a second extension of time request for an additional 4 months to complete the landscaping installation required by the conditions of approval for the waiver WVR 24002 application that was approved by the Planning Commission on November 13th, 2024.
Lisa Warner, Assistant Planner for the record. The background on this waiver application is this is for the previously known Pizza Shack building where All Points Grill is doing business now currently. The waiver was originally approved by Planning Commission on November 13th, 2024. That was a waiver of some parking requirements, cut down on landscaping. But one condition of that waiver was that the approved landscaping would have to be completed by November 13th, 2025. So we gave them 1 year to get that landscaping, minimal landscaping in. The landscaping plan was presented to us here at the city on October 28th, and it was approved. Oops. Okay, I'll look over on this side. So the extension of time request, let's see, now I'm messed up. Okay, extension of time request to postpone the landscaping installation completion was received on November 12th. Then we did an extension of time request that was approved by Planning Commission on December 10th, 2025. That gave them a new deadline to get the landscaping in until February 13th of 2026. Between December 2025 and February 2026, prior to their February 13th deadline, they've completed the hardscape, which is the planting island that you see out in the front. They've completed that component as well as the split rail fence. And they've also put in the irrigation. The applicant now has come forward and requested a second extension of time to postpone the completion of the landscaping for another 4 months. They would like to have the new installation completion date be June 20th, 2026. The reasoning behind this second extension of time request is the threat of frost in northern Nevada between April and May. Frost poses a risk to newly planted shrubs and trees, and postponement of the planting will support the long-term sustainability of the landscaping. Here's a picture of the site plan. This is a little better plan. This is the landscaping. So they've put in that parking, the planting thing at the front, the split rail fence, but they do still have planting that they do need to finish. Since the second extension of time was received prior to the landscaping installation deadline of February 13th, 2026, the extension of time request is consistent with both the city's master plan and the city's municipal code. And then I have a recommendation if you don't have any questions, but if you do, I can take those.
Could I make a comment?
Go ahead.
I would just like to disclose that I work at a brokerage that is owned and operated by an owner of this building, and I do not think that it affects my judgment in voting, but if you would like me to abstain, I'm willing to.
Aaron Mortson, the city attorney. Ultimately, the decision as to whether or not you abstain, Julianne, is up to you. You've made your disclosure and you can make the determination as you find appropriate.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any questions or comments from the Planning Commission?
Only general comment is next time we grant an extension, we should just take planning seasons. So instead of granting another 3 months, let's just grant 7 to begin with.
I just want to say that when this was brought in the November meeting, I even asked them, are you sure you want to just do the 3 months? Because it's December, it's winter, it's rainy, it snows. Did I know? I did.
Yeah, that's definitely correct, but we can only request what the applicant requests, so that's why they originally were thinking they were gonna be able to get it done by February and then rethought now by June. But at least they are making progress, so we're glad to see that.
If that does happen, to parlay off of his question, and, if one of us has an inclination to say, you know what, let's extend this until at least get us past the winter months into, post-spring, can we put that in? And if they happen to finish it early,
We could suggest that.
okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, we'll open that up to public input. Is there anybody here that would like to make a comment or question? Is there anybody on Zoom? All right, well, if there's no additional discussion, can I have a motion?
I'll take a motion. Okay. I move to approve the second extension of time for the landscaping and installation completion associated with WVR 24002 Pizza Shack. The new completion date will be June 30th, 2026.
Thank you, Commissioner Flores. Can I have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. Can we please vote? And the motion passes 7-0. Moving to item 3.3 for possible action, discussion and possible action regarding resolution number 26-002 and bill number 381 associated with MPA 26001 and ZMA 26001. Concurrent request from M4 Victory Power QOZB LLC for parcel 021-031-13 containing approximately 107.87 acres and generally located east of Interstate 80, west of Fernley Sink Lake, northeast of Duffy Road, and north of the existing Victory Logistics planned development, adjusting the master plan land use designation from GR, General Rural, to I, Industrial, and rezoning the property from GR 20, General Rural 20 acre minimum to I, Industrial.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Michelle Rambo, Planning Director for the record. And we are here on this property. If you remember, this is the same one that we approved an annexation for not too long ago. It's 107 acres roughly located at the very northeast tip of Fernley, abutting Interstate 80. It is currently zoned GR 20, which is General Rural 20 acre minimum, with a land use designation of General Rural. The surrounding jurisdictions, ownerships, there's a whole lot going on in this around this little property. So the north and the east is the city of Fernley, Interstate 80, Churchill County, and Lyon County. To the south is the city of Fernley, and to the west is the Bureau of Reclamation, which has it and it's designated open space. So here's another look at that property, way out there on the tippy top of the city limits. And again, this just shows you the current land use and zoning designations. Little zoning comparison here, just so you can see the difference between the dimensional standards for GR 20, which is General Rural 20 acre minimum, and compared to the industrially proposed zoning. So there is some differences, especially with minimum lot size and coverage and some of the setbacks. So the comprehensive master plan amendment has findings, as with everything that we do, that have to be met in order for it to be approved. So the master plan would implement the goals listed within the City of Fernley Master Plan as listed in the staff report. There are some specific goals or policies in the master plan that have been pulled out. For example, encourage and plan for new development in areas where adequate public services can be provided, ensure existing and future land uses are compatible, and then encourage new development to be in accordance with the master plan and other land use controls. Compatibility with the surrounding land uses within the master plan. The proposed master plan land use of industrial would be compatible with the surrounding master plan designations, which are also industrial. Some are the GR, general rural, and some are open space. Third finding is that public notice was given, which it was. Legal ad was put into the Reno Gazette Journal in February. Public hearing is being held tonight, and then additional public notices and public hearings will be held in April. For the zoning map amendment, it also has its own set of findings that need to be made, similar to what the master plan amendments were. Consistent with the city's master plan and otherwise consistent with state and federal law. The industrial zoning is consistent. That little chart there shows you the land use category of industrial, and the I zoning equivalent is zoning district is the equivalent zone for that land use category. Industrial zoning district supports several comprehensive plan policies, same ones that basically that the master plan amendment had also supported. Surrounding land use, consistent with surrounding land uses, again, same as with the master plan. These surrounding master plan designations are compatible with this particular industrial zoning district. And it is, when you're talking land use planning in general, you do want your industrial zones out on the edge of the city. So it just keeps things more orderly and manageable that way. Public notice, again, was provided in early February. Mailed notice was provided to surrounding property owners on that same date. Public hearing is being held tonight, and we will be sending out additional mailed notices and publish the notice again for the public hearings coming up in April. So I've provided some language for you for approval and denial. And then I'm going to turn it over to the applicant who has a presentation with a little more detail in it.
Could I ask real quick in between, what is being shown on the screens is not screen shared here? And so like the zoning adjacent parcels are not in the packet. Is it possible to view those maps also?
Do you mean to include the maps that were in the presentation in the packet in the agenda?
Maybe, or I don't know, like on Zoom, someone can typically share their screen so that what is being shown is viewable to those on Zoom. I find it not helpful to be looking at the audience when there's information on a screen that I think should be shareable.
I think they're trying to resolve that now. Stand by.
Thank you.
Is the application in the application in your packets? Because I know those maps, those existing and proposed master plan and zoning maps were in my application that I turned in.
I think she's saying that she's only seeing the room. She's not,
Oh, okay.
she's not able to see the presentation. Commissioner Holt, can you see it now?
I do not. And the information that I have in my packet, like through, you know, what I go through here, does only includes one map, and it is not what you guys are viewing.
Aaron Morrison, City Attorney. The ones that are up now are on Exhibit 3 in the packet.
Yeah, the entire, Michelle Rambo, Planning Director, the entire application packet material is included in the packet for tonight's.
I open Exhibit 3 and it has one map, but it has no zoning like overlays or anything with it. So I think you guys had more than one map up there, but I apologize if not. I'm just not seeing what the adjacent zoning are in the one map that I have in Exhibit 3.
Well, when I go through the presentation, when we get to the proposed colors, the proposed colors that we'll have on those will be gray on the triangular property. So maybe if you end up finding a map that has gray on that, I apologize. I haven't introduced myself. For the record, Dave Snellgrove. I'm planning manager with Bowman Consulting Group. Madam Chair and members of the commission, it's a pleasure to be with you tonight. Can we bring up my presentation by chance? There we go. They're with me in the audience tonight are members from Mark IV, and we also have Mr. Thornley in the audience too. The property location, as Michelle mentioned in her presentation, is just north of the existing Victory Logistics project area, which is zone PD, but really is industrially zoned throughout almost the entirety of the site of the 1,700 acres. Oh, that one went out. I gotta pull Lisa Warner here and look sideways. So we have 107 plus total acres of land in this parcel. What we're requesting tonight is a master plan amendment and a zoning map amendment solely. So the location of the property is situated up at the far end. There's really no other access to the property. Our nearest uses are basically open space in the BOR and Endow property to the east. And then the freeway, which presents a major barrier. I know that Michelle had it identified this general rule. Yes, that is across the freeway, which is quite a significant barrier. So those two barriers exist on the kind of western and eastern sides of the triangle. And the only logical and connective location for us is to the south, which is in Victory Logistics, because there really is no opportunity in either other direction. During one of the previous items that you heard tonight in terms of the adjacency issue, there was a comment made by Ms. Rambo about industrial not being appropriate next to residential. That's one thing I'll go through because really the only access that we have is down into Victory. The consistency with the adjacent developed property, that's where all the services will come from, where access will have to come from because it can't come off I-80 where it is, and it won't be coming through the BOR property. So I'll give you a little background. I worked on the plan development application for Mark IV, and they had added some properties to that just before we ended up turning that in. If this property had been available and in the ownership of Mark IV at the time, this would have been included in the PD handbook. The Sarasola family had it. It was just less than a year ago that Mark IV Capital did acquire this land, and they're looking at bringing this consistent with the body of their property. So the existing and proposed master plan exhibits on the left-hand side, you've got the existing general rural designation, and then to the right, you've got the gray area, which matches and corresponds with the gray of the Victory Logistics District. The proposed master plan designation of I mirrors and is consistent with the nearest developable property, and that's where all the infrastructure and utilities and access would come from. Similarly, on the zoning map, we've got a GR20 designation, which is shown in the light green on the left-hand side. And then on the right, we go to industrial. I know that the striped color for the Victory Logistics District, that's just because it's PD, but underlaying that PD zoning is the industrial designation. Again, similar to the master plan amendment, the proposed zoning of I mirrors and is consistent with the nearest developable property in Victory Logistics. we took and consolidated down I can't remember how many pages of allowed use tables you have, but these are the uses that are allowed within the industrial zone. And again, what we're asking for tonight is a master plan amendment to be consistent with the adjacent property in Victory Logistics of industrial and the zoning. And the zoning would drive what's allowed on the property. These are the uses that would be allowed. The Ps and the Ls on there are locational criteria that you wouldn't be able to put every P or every C/L. There's a few C/Ls up there. You wouldn't be able to put those just anywhere. There are some locational criteria. But what you'll notice is a lot of the heavier type uses would require a conditional use permit. There are some uses that would be allowed just by right. Because the location of where this property is being kind of out on the end, you'd have to go through a 1,700 acre industrial park in order to get there. It doesn't make sense for a lot of different uses. For residential, definitely doesn't make sense for commercial to be out there because you really need rooftops around it in order to support that commercial. And again, going through the industrial park to get to your house isn't as desirable. So in terms of the master plan amendment, it really makes sense to tie in with what's there and what's the closest available and developable area. And that would be to the Victory Logistics District. Michelle went through the findings. We are identifying we're consistent with the master plan. We had some additional policies that we had identified in our application. Went through a couple things that, in the second legal finding, it talks about the master plan amendment would be compatible, and we do believe very fully that the request of industrial for the master plan and industrial for the zoning is compatible with the adjacent property. And then the city covered the public notice issues. The zoning findings are almost identical. So the responses to them are the same. The policies that we have in place that we identify there are the same that I had before. And we agree with the staff's analysis and the recommendation and agree that all the legal findings can be made, be available for any questions that you may have. We would appreciate, with the master plan amendment, it doesn't need a 2/3 vote. That would be 5 of the 7 members. We would appreciate, 5 or more votes in favor on the master plan amendment, and available for any questions you might have.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Does the Planning Commission have any questions? Commissioner Wagner.
So I think it's kind of a no-brainer. Obviously, this is not an area for residential. It makes sense to turn it to industrial. There's no issues there. I just want to make sure you have the table there as far as what's permitted by right and what's necessary to come back with a conditional use permit.
Back up to that. There
So with energy generation, that would still require a conditional use permit to come back to us for developments there.
Absolutely.
And then this is probably for city staff, but just a procedural question. We've done a lot of, zoning changes and things like that. I don't remember doing that through a resolution before. And I know it's just a legal document. I don't see any problems with the resolution, but was there a specific reason why this is a resolution and other zoning changes haven't been?
Give me 1 second just to look through this. This is another one I inherited, so I'm just
I
covering.
think the master plan is the resolution and zoning is ordinance.
Yes, the master
Okay.
plan is the resolution.
Yeah.
It's Michelle Rambo, planning director. So if you read the agenda item title, it's a resolution number 26-002. That's for the master plan amendment. And bill number 381 is the ordinance for the zone change.
Okay. So the resolution is required for a master plan amendment.
Yes.
And that's okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Flores.
I just said a general statement. If you actually do put some power generation units there, I noticed you put right at I-80, do you not, right there?
We do have that western frontage does about I-80.
Are you required to build some kind of a barrier there, like a tall wall, so that in case there's a snafu there, it doesn't, take out people traveling on the I-80, basically, you know?
Yeah, and I'm sure that there will be requirements that NDOT would have in terms of anything in proximity to the highway. We'd have to maintain whatever the appropriate setbacks are as administered by both the city and if NDOT has any concerns or issues there. With any of this, we'd have to go through when we're in a special use permit. You've got a lot of extra code items that you have to go through in terms of landscaping and buffering and distance setbacks and all that. And that's the appropriate time to get in that. Those will be things that we'll have to design out and make sure that we're meeting the requirements, not only the city, but other agencies.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other commissioner comments, questions?
Thank
All
you.
right, we appreciate that. Okay, at this time, we'll open it up to any public input. Is there anybody here that has any comments related to this agenda item? Is there anybody on Zoom?
No.
Okay. All right, with that, can we get a motion? Commissioner Vanderhagen?
Based on the analysis presented in the staff report, I move to recommend approval of Resolution 26-002 and Bill number 381 associated with MPA 26001 and ZMA 26001, adjusting the master plan use designation for parcel 021-031-13 from general rural to industrial and rezoning the property from general rural 20-acre minimum to industrial.
Thank you. And may I have a second? Commissioner Flores?
I second that motion.
All right. We have a first motion and a second. Can we please vote? And that motion passes 7-0. And I will say I'm excited to see and hear all about this project as it moves forward under the assumption it will be a power plant, especially in relation to how what the president signed, was it last week with not putting the burden of the cost of these power generation facilities to these data centers on the public. So we'll move on to item 4, chair and commission items. Let's see. So I would propose in leaning towards, well, actually, Commissioner Lewis, did you want to begin?
Yes, I would like to begin. I'd like to ask for some information for us up here based on all the subdivisions that we have approved or been overrode by city council after our denials. I'm looking at all of the traffic numbers. The traffic numbers are based on that proposed subdivision. I'd like to see if we could get a tally of the current approved subdivisions down Farm District and to have a tally of traffic counts for those subdivisions. As these developers come in, they only do their portion. And I think the accumulation of numbers and traffic is going to kind of boggle our minds a little bit when we really look at what we've approved and what's going to ultimately be on Farm District, whether those subdivisions move forward. I'd really like to look at a total count of traffic numbers, and I think it would be very important for us to continue to keep track of that. So I'm wondering if by next month or within the next little while that can be composed for our information. So I'd like to put that on and the item as an agenda request.
And Aaron Morrison, City Attorney, just to clarify, that's as a presentation, correct? You're not asking for any specific action on that?
No, I would just like to have a tally of the current proposed developments down Farm District, a tally of the traffic numbers combined based on project per project so that we could, ultimately decide whether we're going to have 30,000 cars on Farm District. And we approve one that only has, 100. Well, that's going to add another 100. I really kind of want to look at what the future is going to look like now that we've done this, and every planning, every new subdivision that comes here only presents the traffic that subdivision is going to potentially create. So I think we'd all be quite surprised at the tally of those numbers and what that looks like. Thank you.
Thank
Let
you.
me add
Commi-
additionally, that, yeah, proposed and, approved, both. right?
Correct. I would ask,
That's what you
yes.
want, yeah.
Proposed and approved. And then I think we should keep a running tally of that for our information. Any new subdivisions that come in here that state they're only going to have, 50 AM peak and, or whatever, that we can look at that as a tally number, because the smaller subdivision may only, affect 64 cars in the morning. These larger subdivisions are creating hundreds of trips a day, and that accumulates very quickly.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. Commissioner Wagner.
So on the same note, completely agree. A couple years ago, we had a resolution in front of us to kind of ignore the traffic on the roundabout, and it was going to impede development. And I think votes were made based on a timeline of the Nevada Pacific Parkway project that was presented to us. I've seen very different dates being thrown around. So in conjunction with what Commissioner Lewis is asking for, an update on the timeline of Nevada Pacific Parkway project, and if it is significantly different from what was presented to us when that resolution was made, that we maybe bring that back for additional discussion on that resolution, because the assumptions are not the same anymore.
Over here.
Commissioner Flores.
This is pertaining to a different matter, the matter of appointing somebody to the steering committee. I'm wondering, what the restrictions are on these people. Do they have to live in Fernley? Is it enough for them to work in Fernley? Do they always, the part that we don't know is when they have to come to the meetings. That's actually a big hurdle. And if you could get if you get the person in charge of this, the consultant, to nail down a time, that would be an enormous help to try to find somebody who would volunteer. So could you press the consultant to give us a time when the steering committee during the day would meet? It doesn't, I know it's infrequently, but it would be helpful if you put it later in the day, if the consultant could put it later in the day.
That's
That's what I'm
why I
saying.
think that we're going to, Director Rambo is going to talk with the project manager, or, the firm and the consulting firm, and make it so that we can carve out the details of what's expected and then appoint.
Yeah, as soon as possible,
Yeah.
actually.
All right. Any other discussion items? I have one more to add in lieu of what happened with this project that the city council approved at their last meeting. So that in hopes of not having to have this happen, or hopefully prevent it from happening in the future, the planning commission voted no on that project, and specifically, and since then they had only been presenting their changes and deviations and updates to their project plan to the city council. So whatever we approved or denied in this case wasn't the same project that we denied in the first place. So I think it would be prudent, especially as a planning commission, to actually have that chance to review the project plan, especially when it changes so much as this one particular project did, so that we can approve or deny it appropriately so that the city council knows exactly what we approved or denied.
I would agree with that. Very good point.
All right. Commissioner Holt, did you have any comments or suggestions for upcoming agenda items?
I do not at this time, but thank you.
All right.
And Aaron Mortson, City Attorney, just speaking on that last item. I mean, ultimately, it happens fairly often that projects in between the time that they're at Planning Commission and the time they reach council, some of the details change. It's always within the power of City Council to take any project that comes before them that has been to Planning Commission and send it back to Planning Commission for re-review. I'm not sure if there's any way that the Planning Commission can force an item to come back to them if changes are made prior to Planning Commission. We can look into it and see, but a lot of that ultimately is going to fall in the hands of council to determine when they feel it's appropriate to send it back to Planning Commission.
Well, especially in this particular case where
What is that noise?
saw multiple different variations of that project where it should have been prudent for them to send it back to Planning Commission because that's something that we never saw. But I think if it's presented to us one way and then goes to the city council another way, it's almost like we were deceived in our decision on how to present it to city council. So I'll do some digging on it. I'll reach out to you, Director Rambo, and hopefully we can hatch something up.
So I have another question regarding the city council. Is it possible to put on public record so that the people in the audience know that, say, the planning commission is the recommending body on this matter and they ultimately denied this? I mean, I know that you say it was in the staff report, but the people in the audience don't see the staff report.
Nor did the presentation read it out loud. I mean, an NRS statute was even cited. And it just kind of got breezed over. So I think we're all feeling a little frustrated in regards to our power, and especially if things change once they go to the city. So there is a level of frustration.
We can certainly add in our oral reports what the planning commission decision was. That's not a problem.
And honestly, it feels very deceiving. It just feels very deceptive. Like things are being hidden on purpose. Oh, well, we're not going to say this out loud so that we can get this through. That's how it feels. And I could be totally off base.
Nothing we do is ever personal or meant to be deceptive to anybody. So if we make a mistake, we appreciate it if you point it out to us, maybe in private, where we can have a conversation. But we never do anything underhanded or meant to be disrespectful in anything.
Can I add one more? It just, I'm used to this kind of, when you have appeals, there's always the possibility of the city council overruling the planning commission. That's true in every jurisdiction. I don't know of any jurisdiction where the planning commission has ultimate authority even over the city council. Now, obviously this is not good, but it is the truism about, planning the planning process. Just want to say that. You don't have to like it, but I think that's the way it kind of is.
I have a question. So as a planning commissioner, during a presentation like that we know is going to city council after we deny, me as a person that lives here, could I or we in the audience come up and have our 3 minutes of public speaking? Or is that kind of a conflict?
Aaron Mortson, the city attorney. Generally, that's not something that you can do. You cannot speak on behalf of planning commission at a meeting at council. Theoretically, you could get up there and speak as an individual citizen, but you run a high risk, I think, with ethics of blending your planning commissioner obligations with your personal statements when you get to council. So I would generally advise against it.
Okay, I mean, that definitely makes sense.
If you're very, very careful to speak as an individual and have nothing to do with your planning commission capacity, it's possible that you could do that. I just think the risk is very high.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Okay, we'll move on, and we did excuse Commissioner Wagner. He had a previous engagement he needed to attend, and since we're not voting on anything for the rest of the meeting, we'll turn it to item 5 for planning director items.
Okay, we have a couple of things that have happened in the last couple of council meetings. February 18th, they approved the new code amendment for standalone gaming establishments, and they approved the rural development standards code that was created for those outlying parcels. We had a first reading for that code amendment dealing with AB 241, which is that one that dealing with residential and commercial zones. And then, as mentioned earlier, the Chaparral subdivision was approved. And that, general announcements. Some of you may not know, Elisa, our senior planner, left us. She was stolen by somebody else. I'm very upset about it. We have gone ahead and promoted Treston from associate planner up to senior planner. He was on vacation this week. Otherwise, he'd be here to do some of this. And then there will be other changes, which I can't announce right now. But we're making it work. That's all I've got.
All right. Thank you, Madam Director. We'll go to item 6, address requests for future addenda items. I think we've already talked about this, so if it's okay, we'll move on to item 7 for public forum. This is the portion of the meeting devoted to the public. If you wish to comment, you can do so in person at the meeting or use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. *9 if you're participating via phone. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Please avoid repetition. Is there any public input at this time? If you are speaking at the podium, please print your name on the sheet provided.
Hi, Becky Hallett for the record. Let's stand over here. I understand your frustration about the adjacency standards and that, because I was bugging Michelle a lot about that one. But I also, it doesn't need to turn into, a personal attack either. It's almost like watching city council all over again. So, I mean, it's hard, it's frustrating. I get frustrated too, because, you feel like you're voicing your opinion and you're trying to, get your point across, and it falls on deaf ears, or, they decided, well, we're gonna do this anyway, but it needs to remain professional, and, thank you, that was it.
Thank you very much. All right. Is there any other public comments? Anybody on Zoom? All right. Our next Planning Commission meeting is April 8th at 5 p.m. Meeting adjourned.